At age 35, Nathan Eovaldi found a whole new level of dominance. But is this just a one-year fluke, or is this the new Nathan Eovaldi?
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a criminally addicted Texas Rangers fan, covered this team for 12 seasons, including all 7 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about Nathan Eovaldi's career season at age 35, how he got even better than the already great pitcher that he was, and if this is just the new normal or a one-year fluke for Nathan Eovaldi. Before we get into all that, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Now, this was the best season of Nathan Eovaldi's career. Yes, he has won 2 different World Series, I think is the plural of series at this point. But my goodness, what an incredible year for the Rangers ace. One of the Rangers' 2 aces, but the Rangers' acest of aces, because had the Rangers made the postseason this year, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind, had the Rangers been able to set up their rotation exactly like they wanted, that Nathan Eovaldi is the game 1 starter. Jacob deGrom is incredible. He is phenomenal. He has won a lot more Cy Youngs than Nathan Eovaldi, because 2 is a lot of Cy Youngs, and Nathan Eovaldi has not won one yet. Were he healthy, I think he might have been the Cy Young winner this year, because this was an unbelievable level of dominance. 4.2 baseball reference for 11-3 and 173 ERA. Let me say that again. A 173 ERA in 130 innings, 129 strikeouts. This guy was the realest of real deals. This was truly one of the best pitchers. No, I'd say per inning, this is the best pitcher in baseball. This is better than Paul Skeens, what he was doing in terms of his run prevention. This is better than what Garrett Crochet was doing in terms of his run prevention. It was better than what Tarek Skubal was doing in terms of his run prevention. And a run prevention per inning basis, this was the freaking best in baseball. This guy was unbelievable for a starting pitcher that at the age of 35 somehow found a new gear. That 4.2 baseball reference war, it's not the best in his career, but per inning, it absolutely is. The only year he had a higher baseball reference war was 0.1 higher back in 2021, where he made 32 starts, finished 4th in Cy Young voting, was an all-star, got MVP votes with the Boston Red Sox. That was a couple years before he signed with this Texas Rangers squad. And somehow this year wasn't an all-star. I don't know how he wasn't selected with the first batch of starters, but he wasn't that far off of the innings limit, at least in the first half. I mean, he made 16 starts in that first half, a 1.58 ERA. In the second half, a paltry 6 starts and a 2.08 ERA. And he was 4-0 in those 6 starts in the second half. The Rangers staying afloat, staying alive, had a large part to do with Nathan Eovaldi, and really could have used a little bit more Nathan Eovaldi. I mean, because for what went well with him this year, I mean, the curveball was just a new level of dominance this year. The shape of it didn't change all that much. It wasn't like he found some new grip that completely changed how it moved, because the movement profile was pretty similar to what he did the year before. I mean, it's a little bit better break on that curveball, but I think just trusting it more, trusting the command more of that pitch. The cutter had a little bit more downward movement than it had in years past. It was a lot more effective of a pitch this year. In terms of run value, it was the most valuable pitch that he threw this year at a plus 13 run value, splitter at plus 11 run value, and then the curveball at plus 6. He also threw in a sinker this year. I wasn't really noticing it in real time, but going back and looking at it, he did not throw a sinker in years past, at least not in quite a long time. And that was a really effective pitch for him, actually even more effective based on run value and value per pitch than his four-seam fastball that was just just an average pitch this year. I mean, the velocity on it was down from where it had been in years past. I think just not being able to make all of his starts this year and consistently build up that velocity is why the velo was down, but it was still a very effective pitch. But what made him so darn good is what has always made Nathan Eovaldi good, but he took it to another level this year of being able to throw any pitch in any count to any hitter in any situation. You do not know what's coming with Nathan Eovaldi. You could be behind, you could be ahead of the count as a hitter 3-0, and he's got 4 pitches now, 5, 6, because occasionally he'll throw in the slider. But of those 4 main pitches I'm talking about, splitter, fastball, cutter, curveball, he could throw any of those to any hitter at any part of the zone as well in any count. And you just cannot prepare for that level of craftsmanship, of, crafty. You think of a crafty lefty, of the guy who can place any pitch anywhere, but you don't think of that as much with a righty, and you don't think of it as much as the guy who can occasionally dial it up into the upper 90s. This is a crafty, brilliant pitching righty. This guy just knows how to pitch better than I think anybody else in baseball, just in terms of the pitching acumen, the game planning, Mike Maddox is an incredible pitching coach to pair with Nathan Eovaldi, but Nathan Eovaldi in his own right is an incredible pitching coach. I mean, if this is what he wants to do someday, whenever he hangs it up, I think this would be the best pitching coach in the freaking league. He was averaging nearly 6 innings per start, and that's even with several starts where he was basically rehabbing at the big league level, or a couple of games where he had to leave early, like that game against Toronto early on in the season. He only made it through 2 innings, and then he was pulled, and then he missed the better part of a month, then came back on June 27th and pitched only 3 innings in that game. But this guy was pitching so incredibly deep into games. I mean, it was 6 innings or more basically every time out there. He had 7 starts of his 22 where he had 7 or more innings. He also had that complete game shutout in Cincinnati, where literally the day before, Kumar Rocker had just had his brakes blown off by that Reds offense. And Nathan Eovaldi says, all right, that's fine. Here's 9 shutout innings with 8 strikeouts, no walks, and on 99 pitches, no less. A Maddox, a true beauty of a masterpiece for Nathan Eovaldi. That was the crowning jewel on what was an incredible season for me. He had so many of these great starts of 7+ innings. I mean, 7 innings of shutout ball against the Tigers in Detroit on May 11th. He was fantastic in that one. I mean, 7 2/3 score of 1-run baseball against the Astros in Houston on July 13th, right before the All-Star break. He was so darn good in that one. And then against the Yankees on August 5th, 8 innings of 1-hit baseball, the only base runner that he allowed in those 8 shutout innings, and then 7 innings in his final 2 games each, one in Toronto, one against Cleveland. And then unfortunately, he was shut down for the season. But this guy was on a 6.3 WAR, baseball reference WAR pace for the season. I think that's honestly lowballing it. In terms of just the value of 4.2 WAR of 22 starts, 130 innings of a 170 ERA. I think that's really lowballing the amount of value that Nathan Eovaldi brought, because on a per inning basis, if this guy made 30 starts, he wouldn't have stacked up with Mike Minor's 8.0 franchise leading baseball reference for season back in 2019. But this was better than Mike Minor's 2019 season. Heck, it was better than Lance Lynn's season in 2019. That was the tied for the second highest baseball reference WAR of any season amongst Rangers pitchers. This was just the greatest Rangers pitching season I think I've ever seen. Yu Darvish was definitely up there in 2013. I can't comment on how great Fergie Jenkins's 1974 season was. That was also tied with Lance Lynn for a 7.7 baseball reference WAR. I was still 20 years away from being born, so I can't really comment on that, or the Charlie Huff's season in 1985, or even what Ken Hill was doing when I was 2 years old in 1996. I was not paying close attention as a 2-year-old, although I probably should have been. I bet that was an incredible season. But just on a per innings basis, this is the most dominant Texas Rangers season I have ever seen. And it wasn't just what he was doing while he was on the mound, because even though he missed some time this year, what he was doing while off the mound, it might not have been as valuable looking at the small picture of what was happening in games, but for the long term of this franchise, what he was doing off the mound might have been even more valuable this year. Talk about what that was and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Gametime. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. But actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees, it takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is the fast, easy way and is to get tickets, and it's backed by the Gametime guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I have used Gametime so much, not just for getting baseball tickets, which I did a couple times this year, but I got a concert that I'm going to this week, and Gametime made getting those tickets so easy. It was the best deal I could have possibly gotten on those tickets, and it's just no hassle. I love using Gametime for tickets to all the live events that I'm going to. So download the Gametime app right now, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Shout out to everybody that's making Locked On Ranger first listen every single day. On tomorrow, she'll be back and talking about Jacob deGrom's season, what to make of season number, three with the Texas Rangers, and what was an incredible comeback season and should be a comeback player of the year award win for Jacob deGrom, the Rangers' other ace. But it wasn't just what Nathan Eovaldi was doing on the mound last year that was incredible. I mean, it was incredible. It was probably the most incredible thing. It was one of the most incredible pitching performances that I've seen across a full season. But the mentorship of Jack Leiter. I mean, constantly Jack was crediting Nathan Eovaldi's game plans of talking with him, of picking his brain, of just following up Nathan Eovaldi's starts. I mean, whenever Jack Leiter would go immediately after Nathan Eovaldi, those were some of his best starts of the season, because while Jack Leiter's arsenal is a little bit different than what we've seen from Nathan Eovaldi, Evo doesn't rely as much on his slider as Jack does. Jack's got a bit of a kick change versus a splitter that Evo has. They're both pretty fastball heavy. Jack doesn't really rely on a cutter. He tried that out a little bit, didn't really work. He's got a curveball that's more 12-6, more just straight up and down movement than Nathan Eovaldi's is, but their profiles are their arsenals are kind of similar. And watching Nathan Eovaldi go about his business and seeing how he attacked hitters and talking with him about the game plan against certain hitters whenever they get to go in the same series, Jack Leiter was just made that much better. Heck, even when Nathan Eovaldi went on the IL at the end of the season and he was not traveling with the team, he would still call up Jack Leiter and say, hey, here's how I would attack these hitters. Here's the kind of game plan that I would use. And in the second half, I mean, Jack Leiter was leaps and bounds better. He was still pretty good in the second half. In the first half, had some moments for sure, but just learning under Nathan Eovaldi proved to be such a valuable tool for Jack Leiter, who is the future of this Rangers pitching staff. I mean, he just is. The Rangers did not have a homegrown good starting pitcher in quite some time. I mean, Cody Bradford was that, but he really only was able to do that for about 60% of a season. Unfortunately, he missed all of last year and will miss all of 2026, which is just so unfortunate. But Jack Leiter is taking that torch and running with it of like, I'm not just a competent homegrown starting pitcher, which has been, those have been few and far between from this Rangers franchise, but I am a really darn good, if not potential future top of the rotation type of a guy, at least mid rotation, if not, number 2 starter kind of a caliber guy. That is not a entirely because of Nathan Eovaldi's leadership, because Jack Leiter has a lot of natural talent. He has also got an incredible work ethic. He's got a great pitching apparatus around him. This Rangers pitcher development system has grown leaps and bounds under Chris Young's leadership. But getting that final piece, that final little piece of the puzzle to get him over the hump and help him figure out some things that you just kind of need a guy who is dominating at the big league level right now to take you to that next level. And that's what Nathan Eovaldi helped him do. So not just what he was doing on the field, on the mound, but what he was doing in the dugout with not just Jack Leiter, but I'm sure every Rangers young pitcher, heck, even the Rangers older pitchers. This is a guy who is a resource to these guys. I mean, Jacob deGrom has said, I've learned stuff from Nathan Eovaldi as well. A guy who is 37 years old, older than Nathan Eovaldi, has had more Cy Youngs and arguably a better career than Nathan Eovaldi, but he is still learning from Evo. Having that guy as a resource on your team is so incredibly valuable that even when they're not on the mound, they are still making your team better. But when he was on the mound and per inning basis, all these things I'm saying is because Nathan Eovaldi didn't have a fully healthy season. The only thing that went poorly for Nathan Eovaldi this year was, unfortunately, his health. He had multiple stints on the IL, missed the equivalent of 10 starts this year, only pitched 130 innings, where if Nathan Eovaldi was healthy for the entirety of the season, maybe this is a different team. Maybe this is a different situation we're talking about right here. Maybe it's the Rangers in Game 7 against the Toronto Blue Jays in the ALCS tonight than it being the Seattle Mariners. I don't know. Maybe it's not, because Nathan Eovaldi couldn't fix this offense. Unfortunately, I'm sure he tried, but I mean, multiple different stints on the IL. One of them with right elbow inflammation that took him out for basically the entirety of the month of June. Went on the IL on June 1st and then came back on June 27th. And then after he came back on June 27th, he was fantastic yet again. And then at the end of August, right around when things looked like they were finally turning around, Evo ends up landing on the IL with a right rotator cuff strain. He wouldn't have even been healthy until about the ALDS, should the Rangers have made the postseason. But it was just such a devastating blow. The Rangers were able to, stay above water, have just a little bit of hope right after things were turning around because of those little rascals. But this was a lot of games missed from Nathan Eovaldi, and he's been a guy who has struggled with durability in his career. The amount of times he's made 30 or more starts in a season, in a regular season, I should say, because he made, I believe, exactly 30 starts in 2023, but he's only done it twice in his career. He did it the first time back in 2014 as a 24-year-old with Miami. It was that long ago, more than a decade ago at this point. And then he did it again in 2021 with the Boston Red Sox. Now, the last couple of years, I mean, it's not like he's missed a significant chunk of time. It's not like he's missing the majority of the season. It's not the same situation as Jacob deGrom for the last couple of years, but it's not insignificant. I mean, I think back to 2023, and it felt like he missed a lot more time than he did. I mean, he still made 25 starts in the regular season in 2023. Last year, he made 29 starts, only missed a little bit of time, still ended up with 170 and 2/3 innings in 2024. And then this year, well, it felt like he missed such a big chunk of the season, and he did, but he still made 22 starts and 130 innings. It's not like he was out for, half the season. He was still pitching basically 2/3 of a season. You think of a typical workload for a starter of being 30 to 32 to 33 starts. He's still made 22 starts this year and had so many innings, because in almost a third of his starts, he was going 7 or more innings, which the Rangers desperately needed at times. But he's 35 years old. He's turning 36. Where'd we go? At some point next year, it's going to be his age 36. Oh, he's turning 36 in February of next year. So this is a guy who is on the older side. He is a big part of why the Rangers were the oldest team last year in all of Major League Baseball. Now him and Jacob deGrom being 2/5 of your rotation is a great thing, because they're both very good, but they're also, again, subject to injuries. I mean, it's not like a recurring thing necessarily with Nathan Eovaldi. It's not like, oh, it's his elbow every single time. It was his elbow, it was his shoulder. It's just kind of things that pop up at this point. But I think budgeting for around, 20 to 25 starts for Evo and maybe 120 to 150 innings, I think that's the expectation. But if the expectation, if he's doing this, if he's doing this level of pitching while he is out there for those 20 to 25 starts, and then you get him healthy for the postseason, that is absolutely worth every dollar that the Rangers are paying for, and then some. I mean, his expected numbers were like just as good as his regular numbers. I mean, not quite a 1.75 ERA, but the expected ERA was way up there at a 3.04 ERA. The expected batting average within the top quarter of the league. I mean, that expected ERA was in the top 13% of baseball. I mean, the walk rate was back to the elite levels. That's what really makes Nathan Eovaldi who he is. He does not give up walks, and he does not give up home runs. I mean, a 4.2% walk rate. That's in the top 2% of Major League Baseball. And just the limiting homers, he is so darn good at it. Only 10 home runs, 0.7 homers per 9 this year. That was amongst the league leaders in home runs per 9 per starting pitchers. This guy is just so darn good at not beating himself and giving you those big moments when your team needs the most, especially down the stretch. But is this a level of dominance that Nathan Eovaldi can sustain? Is this just the new Nathan Eovaldi, or was this just a 1 year, one-time deal? Talk about that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you'll get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Right now, it is Game 7 tonight. The ALCS, Mariners versus Blue Jays. It is going to be so fun in this Game 7. Right now, let's look at the betting favorites for ALCS MVP. Right now, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who has just been crushing it in this series, a favorite at -110 to win the ALCS MVP. And the next 5 guys are all listed as Mariners. Cal Raleigh is second favorite at +470. Eugenio Suarez at +800. Josh Naylor +850. Jorge Polanco at +1600. Julio Rodriguez at +1700. It is going to be such a fun Game 7. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Now, Nathan Eovaldi was fantastic this year. He had such a high level of success, and the Rangers had the best pitching staff in all of baseball, in large part because Nathan Eovaldi was so darn good. Now, is this just the new Nathan Eovaldi? I think some version of this, yes. I think to some degree, Nathan Eovaldi has figured something new out, and he can just be. I don't think he's going to have a 1.7 ERA for the rest of his career. I think that is a little bit much to expect from him or, anybody at this point. But in terms of just being this next level of dominant, being more dominant than he had been in years past, I think that is sustainable. I mean, you look at the expected numbers, you look at all of the advanced metrics of him limiting walk rate, of him getting a lot of ground balls, limiting hard contact, getting strikeouts, getting chase, getting swing and miss. These are all the things that make dominant pitching sustainable, and that's what he was doing. That is something that he has continued to do, and it's not reliant a lot on velocity. I mean, his fastball velocity was below average this year, which, living in a world where 94 miles an hour is just a below average fastball, is absolutely wild. But this is not a guy who is just living on his athleticism. When pitchers start to get older, usually they have to learn how to pitch more, especially if they're guys who come into the league and they're chucking, 98, 99, 100, 102 miles an hour by guys. That's not sustainable. You usually, unless Aroldis Chapman is apparently the exemption, he's also a reliever versus a starter. But these starters, you don't get to just keep throwing 98, 99, 100 into your, mid to late 30s, unless you're Jacob deGrom. Apparently, he's the other outlier. But even he has toned down that fastball velocity a little bit. And the command, the control, the game planning, the just pitch shape, this new shape of his curveball and new shape of his cutter, those have helped him out a lot. And I think that maybe new levels of dominance, sub-3 ERAs, from here on out. Maybe not from just here on out, but in general, it's very possible, because the lowest ERA Nathan Eovaldi said, I mean, this was his best season to such an insanely staggering degree. The best season ERA he had for a full year was that 3.7. Well, I guess if you want to count the COVID season, he had a 3.72. But the 3.63 actually ERA that he had in 2023 with the Rangers. This was nearly 2 full runs lower. I mean, this was less than half what his best ERA in his career had been. This man had been in the big leagues for 14 seasons. That's not even counting 2017 because he didn't play because he was hurt that full season dealing with Tommy John surgery. But this was such a staggering level of improvement that you don't normally see for guys in their mid to late 30s. This guy is so smart. He is such a heady pitcher. He still has these physical gifts, and he keeps on getting better. That is such an incredible sign of greatness of guys like Nathan Eovaldi. And not to mention, he is still such a postseason hoss in big games, big moments. This guy always steps up in such a huge way. I mean, going back and looking at some of the contracts that were given out to starting pitchers last year, Max Fried was the only other guy who the Rangers were kicking the tires on. And I know he got a big old deal, and he had a fantastic season. Max Fried was excellent last year. And in terms of durability and, run prevention, had Nathan Eovaldi pitched for 30 starts, maybe he would have had a lower ERA than Max Fried. I mean, it was really close neck and neck there for the first half, and then Fried kind of struggled a bit down the stretch, but he was still healthy down the stretch. But you look at some of the postseason starts that Max Fried has made in his career, and they're not anywhere near the level of dominance of Nathan Eovaldi. I mean, he had some of those blow-up starts in the postseason, like against Toronto. If Nathan Eovaldi's out there on the hill in an ALDS game against Toronto, I don't care who it's against. He's not going 3 innings of 6-run ball. That's just never happening with Nathan Eovaldi. This is a guy who I trust implicitly, maybe more than any other pitcher in a big game. I mean, we've seen there are other pitchers that are better than him. I think per inning basis, and one random start in the regular season, that's just on an average day. I think Paul Skeens is, it's pretty easy to say, he's better than him. I think Tarek Skubal on a random day, on an average day, maybe better than Nathan Eovaldi. Same with Garrett Crochet. But in terms of the biggest moments where you need your guys to be the best the most, Nathan Eovaldi is trusted in a game 7 of any kind of huge series. I think more than just about anybody, because of his track record, because of his resume, because of what he has done time and time again. I mean, that 2023 run, this man was unstoppable. This guy has been so darn good for this Texas Rangers team. And I really think he's the best pitcher on this Rangers staff. That is not a dig at Jacob deGrom by any means. I think Jacob deGrom is one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. And on his day, definitely has an argument to be the best pitcher in baseball. But so does Nathan Eovaldi. This was an insanely dominant season. And it is such an incredible just condemnation on this Rangers offense that you have Nathan Eovaldi going out there and having one of the greatest, if not the greatest pitching seasons that any Texas Ranger has ever had. This is the best starting pitching rotation that the Texas Rangers franchise has ever had by far, bar none. It is not close. And this was an 81-win team because this offense stunk. And at the exact wrong times, this bullpen stunk. And it is so darn infuriating that a great season like this from Nathan Eovaldi might be a little forgotten in the history books because it did not end in an AL West championship or a wild card round berth or just any postseason outing for Nathan Eovaldi. That is such a monumental, colossal failure by this Texas Rangers squad, but it's not a monumental, colossal failure from Nathan Eovaldi. This guy had 2 of the best months of baseball I've ever seen from a pitcher. I mean, in May, he made 5 starts, a .68 ERA, a .68 ERA for a month. And I was like, wow, that's maybe the best pitching month I've ever seen a Texas Rangers player have. And then he did it again, but even better in July. He made 5 starts in July and had a .59 ERA for an entire calendar month. Just 2 earned runs in a month. He did that twice. This guy was so darn good. And then the other months, he was still great too. I mean, in 7 starts in April and March, he had a .211 ERA. The only month where he had an ERA below or above 3 was when he made 1 start in June, and he gave up 3 runs when he was literally rehabbing at the big league level to the team that would eventually go on to win the AL West and make it to a Game 7 in the American League Championship against those Seattle Mariners. And then in August, where he finished out strong, 4 starts, a .267 ERA. I mean, this guy was so darn good, so darn consistent, and he was such a valuable member of this Texas Rangers squad. I am just infuriated that he did not get a chance to continue this this dominance into the postseason, because I don't think Nathan Eovaldi is giving up a run in the postseason to any of these teams that made it to the postseason. I just don't. I don't see it. Maybe if the Rangers make it all the way to the World Series, then he gives up a homer to Shohei Ohtani, while Shohei Ohtani gets a 4-homer game and pitches 9 shutout innings because Shohei Ohtani is just unreal. But Nathan Eovaldi might have just prevented all of that. Heck, Nathan Eovaldi might have picked up a bat and said, "Hey, you know what, Shohei, I can do one better," and just hit 3 dingers himself. I don't know. Maybe that's a bit much. But this season was just so dominant from Nathan Eovaldi, and I am so saddened by the fact that it's probably not going to get as much love as it deserves. But for all of us who were there watching it every single day, observing the levels of dominance, the consistency of this dominance, I mean, there were not really many, if any, bad starts. There were basically 2 bad starts, and one of them was that rehabbing start at the big league level against Seattle. And then one of them was that start against Arizona, where he went 5 innings and gave up 5 runs, and miraculously it was only 5 runs in that game. And then his offense came back and saved his bacon, picking him up for all the times that he picked them up in the greatest comeback win that the Rangers had all season long in that start on August 11th against those Arizona Diamondbacks. This was an exceptional season. And if not for that start, I mean, at that point, heading into that start, his ERA was at 1.38. That brought it up to 1.71. I mean, this guy, unbelievable. An unbelievable player. And I am so incredibly glad he is a member of the Texas Rangers for the next 2 seasons. Is he going to have a 1.7 ERA next year? Probably not. But is this the start of the new normal for Nathan Eovaldi? I think absolutely yes. This is a new guy. This is an even better pitcher than the already great pitchers that the Rangers had. And I am so excited to see what he's going to do in 2026. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy Nathan Eovaldi baseball.